I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light, and I'm currently clawing my way up from the abyss of Elden Ring lore I've been researching to bring you this here video on Radahn and Rykard, members of the Caria royal family. More Elden Ring lore videos about Godric the Grafted, Margit, Melina, and more are coming to the channel. Anyway, enough with the introduction, I have a lot to get through, so here's everything you need to know about Radahn and Rykard Caria. I'm going to start with Radahn, as his boss fight sure is something. That something is stressful and strangely wholesome with everyone helping you out, but I don't think we can say either of those things apply to Radahn, who, by the time you meet him, has lost his wits to Melania's rot. Radahn obviously wasn't always like that though. He was born to Queen Rennala Caria of the Full Moon, a champion and gifted sorcerer talented in glintstone sorcery who established her own royal family, and Radahn, another champion from distant lands. Rennala and Radahn met on the battlefield and wed soon after, eventually welcoming Radahn into the world. He was born with the same flaming red hair as his father and would wear it proudly until his death. Radahn's childhood is shrouded in mystery, however, he wasn't alone. His sister Ranni and brother Rykard were also born to his powerful parents, and the family seemed settled for a while. Settled enough for Radahn to be brought to the battlefield when he was younger, at least. It's there that he got to see Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, in all his warlike splendour as he fought in what I think was the War of Giants, which took place in the Golden Age of the Erd Tree. Soldiers were by his side, but Godfrey was also accompanied by his beast regent Serosh, the splendid and awe-inspiring lion, and Radahn was utterly captivated. I think he adopted the Golden Lion as his sigil, perhaps to emulate his hero Godfrey, first Elden Lord. As he grew in years, Radahn studied gravitational sorcery in Sellia, famed home of sorcerers who, by the sounds of it, hunted their own kind from time to time. Lore from Elden Ring spells out that his master was an alabaster lord with a skin of stone. After literal hours of research, I figured out that this might mean Radahn's master was an onyx lord, a race of ancients with skin of stone who was said to have risen to life when a meteor struck long ago. Later on in life, Radahn would hold a meteor at bay, hinting that his knowledge of gravitational powers, and therefore meteors, could have come from those who were actually born of celestial bodies themselves. The reason he learnt those gravitational powers in the first place is actually really sweet. He never wanted to abandon his beloved but scrawny steed that you see him riding in the boss fight, so he used the gravitational powers to make himself lighter. Perhaps having seen Godfrey on the battlefield at such a young age kindled a yearning within Radahn to follow in his footsteps, or perhaps he wanted to make his warring parents proud. Whatever the reason was, Radahn soon became a famed general in his own right, earning the name the Red Lion General to honour his flaming red hair and his childhood hero. Radahn's world was probably thrown into disarray when his father Radahn left their mother Rennala to become king consort to Queen Marika the Eternal. Godfrey's exile from the lands between had left the spot of Elden Lord vacant, and Radahn wanted it, and the godhood that came with it for himself. A small boon was granted to Radahn's offspring from his first marriage, and Radahn, along with Rykard and Ranni, were made demigods. This was possibly done by the greater will as they shared the blood of Radahn, who was now a god, or it was something Marika decided upon herself. We don't really know for sure. As his gravitational sorcery grew in strength, Radahn did something that would affect his and Ranni's destinies. According to sorceress Sellen, Radahn challenged the stars themselves, and in a crushing victory arrested their cycles. Ever since then, he's kept the stars at bay, pausing the destiny of everyone within the Caria family. Only his death would release the stars and enable destiny to tick on. Ranni, having been chosen to be an Empyrean by the Two Fingers, which I explain in my other Elden Ring lore video, orchestrated the Night of the Black Knives, the assassination of the demigod Godwin the Golden, Queen Marika's firstborn, with Godfrey the first Elden Lord. This was the first time any demigod had been killed, and for whatever reason, whether in grief or fury, soon after, Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring. The war named the Shattering erupted as order was thrown into disarray, and cadavers rose to become those who live in death. Iron Fist Alexander mentions that Radahn was a great champion of the Shattering of fearsome repute, indicating he fought heavily in the conflict. Upon the soils of Caelid, Radahn made his stand against Melina, Blade of Miquella, daughter of Queen Marika, and cursed with the Scarlet Rot. His Redmane Knights were by his side, with Melina surrounded by her Clean Rot Knights. A small note about these knights which I really like: they knew that being in close proximity to Melina would eventually putrefy their flesh, but they accepted this sacrifice. A small entry about the gowns of the war surgeons illuminates what battles like this must have been like. They're described as effectively mercy killers on the battlefield, implying that if you were wounded, there wasn't much hope for your survival. With this risk in mind, Radahn and his force fought ferociously, but were no match for Melina in the end. It was upon the Caelid battlefield that she first unleashed her Scarlet Rot, destroying the region utterly. However, Radahn wasn't exactly dead. He arguably suffered a fate worse than death. Stabbed by Melina's Clean Rot Knights, weakened and infected with Scarlet Rot, he was cursed ever to wander as he was slowly eaten from the inside by the rot, his wits fading along with his health, roaring at the sky. Perhaps he's roaring at those stars that he won that victory against so long ago, earning him the title of Star Scourge. In his confusion, he began to gather the corpses of former friends and foes alike, gorging on them like a dog. Things are going to get emotional real quick, as Radahn's Redmane Knights wouldn't leave Caelid, presumably knowing that they would spread the Scarlet Rot if they left. To indicate their resolve, they burnt the rest of the left breast of their armour and pledged to abide by their duty and stay in Caelid and fight the Scarlet Rot however they could. Following the Shattering and Radahn's descent, a celebration of war named the Radahn Festival was begun on the outskirts of Caelid. Calling champions from far and wide, it celebrated warfare at the same time as trying to put a rampaging Radahn to rest. One thing to note is that during the preceding cutscene and boss fight, it's evident that Radahn has somewhat stopped using gravitational magic, though he still uses it offensively, as his beloved steed struggles to carry his weight. Poor horsey. Following Radahn's death, that meteor he was holding up comes crashing into the lands between. Opening up the path to Nokron, the stars start to move once more, and Radahn can finally rest. Radahn's story ends there. Rykard, his brother, has an equally crash and burn life, unfortunately, like every other member of the Caria royal family. Rani turned to sorcery and subtle machinations. Radahn chose the path of war, and Rykard followed his insatiable thirst for a power entirely his own. His younger days are mostly mystery until we get to the time when he discovered ancient hexes on Mount Gelmere, the realm of fire, steep cliffs, and volcanoes. Mount Gelmere is said to have once been home to an elder serpent who devoured a demigod long ago and thus gave birth to the race of man-serpents. The snake in all its forms has always been considered a traitor to the Erd Tree, so this elder serpent/god is held in disgust by those who follow the Golden Order. Having voyaged to Mount Gelmere and back, Rykard used these ancient hexes he had discovered to develop them into practical uses as a new form of sorcery, but something tells me he couldn't stop thinking about the ferocity of Mount Gelmere. Before the idea of Mount Gelmere completely consumed him, however, Rykard made the acquaintance of a dancer named Tanith. Bewitched by her and vice versa, Tanith became Rykard's consort. Her passion for him bordered on obsession, as we'll see. Rykard couldn't resist the siren call of Mount Gelmere and eventually built Volcano Manor, with himself being the lord reigning over it. From what I can tell, he wanted to devour the gods like that serpent of old, so he took the drastic step of binding himself to the serpent that still lived within Mount Gelmere, by being consumed by it, but also using his demigod power to take its form. Rykard himself explains why he took the form of this giant serpent, namely so he could devour, grow, and live eternally. Perhaps he was shaken by the assassination of Godwin the Golden, though we can't be sure when precisely in the Elden Ring timeline Rykard was devoured with the serpent, so he might have bound with the serpent before the Night of the Black Knives. He became known as Praetor Rykard, a ruthless justiciar who commanded a company of inquisitors with the ability to manipulate flame. Tanith was the only human who remained on his side when he became the Serpent of Blasphemy, and he made such a home for himself underneath Volcano Manor that there are even chandeliers down there with him. Look deep like I did, and you'll find that in the Serpent Hunter weapon description there's an interesting hint about what happened to those humans who could have supported Rykard. The weapon originally was thought to have been used to hunt an immortal great serpent in the distant past, but when the soldiers who accompanied their master to the serpent realised that their master's heroic aspirations degenerated into mere greed, they searched for a weapon with which they might haunt their lord. Sounds a lot like Rykard. Rykard's final words are, "Nothing will hold me captive, a serpent never dies." After his death, you can even find Tanith devouring Rykard's corpse, begging his cadaver to find purchase within her, as he found purchase within the ancient serpent. All Tanith wants is to be his serpent and family, so they might devour the gods together. Strangely sweet, if you ask me. And that's Radahn and Rykard's lore and role in the events of Elden Ring. This is my second video about the lore of Elden Ring, so pray for me, this is going to be quite the intense series. Do you have any other characters or events you're curious about and would like me to cover, apart from the really obvious ones? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, thanks very much, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Eurogamer, as we have a new video out every single day. Now I'm going to go and look at snake tattoos, because Rykard has reminded me how cool snakes are, so I'll see you next time.